And the Edmonton Elks, after 3 quarters, looked really good to get a victory. But unfortunately, you need to play 4 quarters to get a win. And they fall 29-21 to start their 2024 season. This is the Green and Gold post-game show with Iwanyk and Jay Milne live from Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. Lots to get to that we saw through this game. We're live exclusively on YouTube for today's post-game show, as on our audio channel. No one's going to know right now because they're not listening to us. But we got the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. YouTube Trev, Sean Bell, Matt Cassian. They're getting you set for Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals. That's on YouTube. We're also on YouTube. We're both on YouTube, sharing the space of Edmonton Sports Talk. We want to hear from you, 780-218-9999. That is the Parish Jewelers inbox. It's going to be confusing, I think, for everyone. Like, we're going to have to read the Oilers and Elks text and who's getting what and getting through that. You could also just jump into the nasty chat on YouTube. A couple thoughts already coming in as well. Reminder, Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, where every day is game day. Belmont people have been here for that one. People are here ready to go for the Oiler game. People are here watching the Elks game. This is the place you want to be. We'll get to the specials later. But Jay, I want to start with you. I always do this starting a post-game show. I throw to the co-host and go, your thoughts on what we saw down at Commonwealth Stadium today?
Well, I thought it was a pretty damn good game. A pretty well-played game considering the weather. I mean, both quarterbacks played pretty well. It's just the finish. I mean, going into the fourth quarter, it was 21-8. No, 28-8.
It was, yeah. I just had to do. So it was 18-8 after 3 quarters.
Yeah, I mean, you got to close that out. That's a problem. That absolutely comes from the top. Now, the good news is that can be rectified. That can be addressed, and that can be handled throughout your practice week heading into week 2. What the positives are, I mean, you had McLeod Bethel Thompson go 33 for 42, 336 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. The interception, I'll throw that one out because that was just a tip at the end of the game. He's trying to fit it into a window. A little bit lucky. The rushing game was not as prevalent as I would have liked to have seen to provide balance to that offense. And the defense was Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, Sean Bain Jr. torched that secondary. Torched the secondary. I mean, I don't know what Lewis, the corner, on that last play was doing. I don't know what he was thinking, why he collapsed on that pass route so early and seemingly didn't even watch Bain Jr. running right by him for the touchdown that sealed that. You know, if the Elks could have held them to a 3-point field goal, then this might have been a totally different game. You have a lot of time on the clock to push it down the field. But as far as week 1 goes, as far as, you know, pace of play and the possession, and I mean, we were talking about it, how the field position battle. That was firmly in control by the Double E throughout most of that game until the fourth quarter, which ultimately was their kryptonite and led to them failing to close out that game. Now, credit's due where it's due. I mean, you got to give credit to Trevor Harris and that Rough Rider offense for coming back and in the fourth quarter, 2 touchdowns in a matter of 2 or 3 minutes. Yes, it was aided by the Javon Leak fumble. That was a killer.
As you talk about everything with the Sean Bain Jr. touchdown, how the defense, all that, how big of a just turning point is that Leak fumble? Like right there.
Huge. It was the turning point.
Yes, you give up that 1 touchdown right away after you go up big, but you fumble the ball right away immediately. They're in great field position, And that's one of those killers that this is the self-destruction of the Edmonton Elks we have seen so many times over the last number of years. And there it was again. We talked about Iwanyk and what a difference maker he can be special teams-wise, and he was tonight. He had some big returns. He had one call back for a touchdown. We've been debating whether that's considered a touchdown or not because before the game, you said he was going to get a touchdown. Well,
but I said before the game
that I thought he was
going to run one back, and he
did. But he didn't.
But he didn't.
We saw the flashes of him being really good. But then there it is in the running back, just fumbling that ball. And this team they can't recover, it seems, over the last number of years with Chris Jones, is when that big break happens against them. They can't seemingly recover. Like, you go back to last year, we were listening to it on the way in. The Riders do it themselves, but they get to the one, they score the touchdown. The Elks get there to the one last year, they can't get it in. Mentally, it collapsed the team for the rest of the season. And then the season changed in week 1. But I think now I'm concerned about that Iwanyk fumble. And they didn't recover from that. They didn't just bounce back from that one. It's interesting. He fumbles. The other big addition on special teams, Boris Beatty misses a big kick. You need to make that kick. When you're Boris Beatty and you're being employed to come in and be a better option than Dean Faithful, you need to get those kicks through the uprights. And there's no excuses for that one, so there's a disappointment. And then, McLeod Bethel Thompson, I would say, though, he was pretty good today. I really liked what I saw from MBT, and that offense at times moved the ball rather well. There were times where they were a little too conservative. At times, just, on the way, after that touchdown given up to the Riders, we heard it on the broadcast driving in, just very short passes. That's on Jarius Jackson. But I will say MBT at least played rather well. But that Iwanyk fumble, it's just the backbreaker to this team. And that's what this team time and time again is. There's just always that something that they stumble over their own feet and can't get over this. Because, again, as we're walking out after 3 quarters, who's the better football team?
By far, the Double E. By far.
And they just can't get it done through final 15 minutes start off 1-0.
They were managing that game very well. And, yeah, the first half was a bit of a sleeper, to be honest. But, I mean, you look at the total game. You look at the total first downs, 19 for Edmonton, 17 for Saskatchewan. Net offense, 361 for Edmonton, 330 for Saskatchewan. Rush yards, this is pitiful. 39 for Edmonton, 32 for Saskatchewan.
Both sides. Both D-lines did an excellent job.
They did a great job. And that's, once again, credit where credit's due. I think defensively, that front 7 answered the call.
Yes.
They certainly did. They shut down A.J. Ouellette, who's considered one of the best running backs in the CFL right now. But yes, the Iwanyk fumble, the Boris Beatty, I don't know what you call that. That wasn't a kick.
It was wide.
That was awful.
Wide, right.
That took a lot of steam out of the sails. But I think offensively, let's say, we talked about facets of the game. They won the field battle. They did win that. Defensively, they had a letdown in the secondary. Well, a late letdown in the secondary that ultimately crushed them. Special teams, they had 2 big whoops on special teams. And so those 2 facets, if one of those happens to work out better or play better, then I think Edmonton takes that game. But yeah, the secondary got torched, for touchdowns. And it seemed like, the Edmonton play calling seemed a little bit conservative. Like, going into the fourth quarter, I don't think there was a play that was over 20 yards for Edmonton. Right? So, but breaking down this game aside, that was a hell of a game.
Oh, sure. If we want to go as an outsider, if you're just a neutral observer, that's a fun football game to watch. And look, I think there's a lot of good both sides could look at moving forward. Like, there's a lot of rust you got to shake off in week 1. Not a lot of. There's only 2 preseason games in the Canadian Football League. You really don't play your starters in a lot of them. The Elks starters didn't play, last week in BC, so it's been 2 weeks for them. BC played a lot of their starters almost 3 weeks ago. So those guys have a lot of rust to shake off. So I guess there would be positives to look at if you're the Elks or if you're the Saskatchewan Roughrider fans. And you're right. If you're an observer, that was a fun football game. But if you're an Elks fan, you're just walking away, again, just when is this team going to turn it around? Because it doesn't get easier. at least before the bye week. That's the thing I'm looking at. This is why this first game was so crucial against Saskatchewan, because I don't know how they're going to do against Winnipeg, BC, and Montreal this season. And so if you and Toronto is just this enigma. I got to watch them to see who they are, because no Chad Kelly, and they lost a lot of players. I don't know where to place them in the CFL. But you got 10 games combined against the Riders, the Stamps, the Red Blacks, and the Ticats. If you want to be a 10-win football team this year, you probably need about 7 wins in those 10. And you already start off 0-1. And if you want to be third in the West, you're probably needing to pass Saskatchewan, and you're already down 1 game to them. You're not just 2 points. You're now, in fact, 3 points down. And you get Montreal next week. You go to Toronto. Then you get BC. This is a very tough stretch for the Edmonton Elks, and they really needed this win.
They did.
And that's what's going to be, like, how are they going to respond? A little bit of a shorter week going to Friday. They're off tomorrow. But
I mean,
and I want to get frustrated, I'm not going to lie, but I also can't get too frustrated because they did play so. Like, this wasn't they didn't show up for 4 quarters. This wasn't they messed up throughout the entire game. MBT looked poor. The offensive line looked poor. The defensive line was awful. Special teams was garbage all over the place, where I could just put my arms up in the air and just start screaming at Chris Jones. We saw how good they can play, or how well they can play. It's just disappointing that they just can't do it for. There's something about this city. How many times with the Oilers do we talk about 60 minutes? Here with the Elks too. We need 60 minutes, guys. 60 minutes.
And Sarek, so in the nasty chat, said it best. 21 points in the 4th quarter.
You can't do that.
You cannot do that.
But now, so when you see those, is that the inexperience still of the secondary? Because we talked about it on the kickoff show, where they had younger guys last year. We were going to see if they could develop. Is that still just that development process and the growing pains of having guys who are maybe only in their 2nd year of the Canadian Football League in the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, Lewis had a rough game at the open corner. I mean, that was responsible for 2 of those touchdowns to Bain Jr. That needs to be addressed. There's going to be some tough film work done by him this week. But yeah, that's just, knowing situational football, knowing that they're down, 21-8 going into the 4th quarter, and knowing just, cover your ass, stay deep.
18.
20 or 29.
Because they scored the field goal in the 4th.
Right. Stay back. What do we do? Like, what are you doing pressing and getting up and losing your focus on that, ultimately the game-winning touchdown?
Yeah.
That's just mental. That's a player not doing his job. Do your job. You have one job. It's to cover that guy that's in front of you. You had a mental lapse and you thought you were going to make a play on a short route. Meanwhile, the guy's running behind you for the game-winning touchdown. That's just a mental breakdown, because that's one guy on the corner. And you cannot have those on the hot corner. You just can't. And there was 2 of them directly led to touchdowns today. So, yeah, that secondary is going to need to, do some film work, get in their heads, stay in their lane, and do their own jobs.
We're going to jump into the nasty chat in a second here. Quite a bit of messages coming in. Matt Iwanyk, Jay Milne with you on the Grin and Gold postgame show. 29-21, the Riders beat the Edmonton Elks down at Commonwealth Stadium. We're live at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. Oh, thank you very much. Ken is bringing us some waters that we need. Mix in those waters. Oilers fans out there, Edmonton fans out there, anyone who was at both doing the first of the doubleheader, mix in those waters today, because you're going to need them, because we're 45 minutes away from Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. We are at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, just off Fort Road. Great place to come watch the Edmonton Elks game. It's, as we just did, easy to get to Commonwealth and then back here if you go to the game. So if you're planning your next future home games, come on down, get on their daily specials. They've got an Elks daily special, or Elks game day special, I should say. Cheese and jalapeno smoky for only $14, 6 o'clock lager, $6, a game day draft, $5. They also have, you could come on down, it's filling up, not a lot of tables left. But if you are looking for a place to watch the Oiler game tonight, they've got $9.97 a pound of dry ribs, $9.97 pound of wings, $9.97 basket of fried chicken. Get it? $9.97 and $9.97.
I get it.
That's Connor McDavid. That's Connor McDavid. And they have Stanley Cup tickets giveaway. They're giving away a pair of tickets to Game 4. You earn ballots by just watching the game live right here at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge, and the winner will be announced during Game 3. So come on down to Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. Look at all the monitors behind us. Like the wall of TVs that they've got. It's absolutely incredible.
It's a beautiful thing if you're a sports bettor. I'll tell you that.
Or if a lot of places have a lot of TVs, but these are all connected. And there's something about having them just seamlessly connected as opposed to looking all over the place.
Something we talked about in the pregame, Maddie, was, and I know you want to get to some of the comments in the Nasty Chat, and absolutely we will, but we commented on that offensive line.
Yes.
And whether they would, rise for the challenge. There's a couple new faces, specifically on the tackles. I mean, they gave up 2 sacks today. And I thought MBT had a lot of time to pass in that pocket. There wasn't too much scrambling or running around or looking disjointed. I thought that Elks O-line had a passing grade this game.
Oh, there was even a point where there was a moment where MBT, you thought should have stayed in the pocket because it was still there, and he decided to move forward and had an ill-advised throw.
He rushed it.
But that was I think just to show, the O-line today, I didn't have any issues with the offensive line. Passing-wise. Now, why didn't they get the run game going in the Edmonton Elks? That would take further film dissection, I would think. Was that Kevin Brown not reading his holes? Was that the O-line not opening up those holes for them? It was too hard to judge.
I don't know. I don't know how many holes there were. I think both front sevens defensively came out to play
and
today,
produced. So then that's the O-line did half their job.
I think both
they did their job on the passing, but running they couldn't find a way to get those holes for Kevin Brown.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at that interception that I forget which player it was that got. That was a grossly underthrown ball by
Avery.
Yeah,
like MBT's throw.
No.
Oh, Trevor Harris isn't.
Yeah.
Oh,
that could have easily been a touchdown for the record. But I mean, okay, let's look at it this way. Is this a team that you think was more competitive today than you expected?
In the good parts of the game, through the 3, they were better than I thought this was going to be a close football game. I thought it would be a 3-point field goal ball game. Riders get the big touchdown the score, I think, gives the Riders a little more, a
little bit more credit than they
deserve for this one. I think I didn't expect to see the Elks be as good as they were when they were at their best. I'll say that. But I did think it was going to be a competitive football game. I did think that you got 2 teams that are going to be battling for third, that there isn't a lot of separation between these 2 teams. So I'm not surprised fully by how close this game was. I'm just more impressed by when the Elks played well, how good they did play. That offense was when that offense was moving the ball, they moved the ball really well. MBT's that second touchdown, to Mayala getting both of those. That little drive was really good.
Yes.
The special teams through, at least in that first half, there was that one point, it may have been the touchdown, where Julian Grant, who had the punt, had the amazing punt, pins the Riders deep. They get the 2-0. They get a shorter punt. The Elks get the ball starting at midfield, and I think that was a touchdown drive that they had. That was just the swing of special teams doing its job, defense doing its job, offense doing its job. You played the field goal or field position game, and in the end, it worked out in your favor. You got 7 points. That impressed me. But then the fourth quarter happens, and that's also that's kind of what I expected from this team this year, is that they're going to have these self-destruction, and these are the things I don't want to see because these are the things you should be growing, especially when it's a Chris Jones team for the 3rd season. And they still aren't out of the self-destructive ways that they have.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't fault them, and there's a Dale Wright in the Nasty Chat says you got exactly what he wanted, apparently. Cornelius 2.0. Yet giving him 3 times as much money. That's just not true. Taylor Cornelius could hardly throw for over 200 yards, right? I mean, McLeod Bethel Thompson today threw for 336 yards. He had an efficiency rating of 106.8. This is not Taylor Cornelius. Now, say what you want about the quarterback situation. This is not. This is a better team than last year. I can assure you of that. That play that they had, they fell apart in the fourth quarter. And a lot of that was just, like you say, getting out of their own way. I mean, I think that turning point that we discussed earlier with the Javon Leake fumble deep in their territory led to a quick touchdown, get force a 2 and out, get another touchdown, then that's hard to combat, right? So if they can just get it together a bit more and not have those mental errors, which ultimately led to their demise today. One with special team, well, 2 with special teams if you want to include Beatty's squib kick, whatever the hell that was, and then the end touchdown.
But how easy is it to get those mental errors fixed?
It can be done.
It can be, but how quickly?
Whether it happens or not is the question, and it can be done very fast. You can take Lewis out of the starting position at cornerback. That can be done very fast, because if you have somebody out there that just follows the rules, does their job, a lot of that doesn't happen. You hold them to 3 points there.
I want to jump in the nasty chat here. You guys have sent in some messages. Thank you for whoever's tuning into the post-game show here.
Diehards.
Well, that's the thing, because right now, the first message we got, what the hell, you guys have 2 shows playing right now? We do. On the other channel of YouTube, or other video on YouTube, we've got an Oiler pregame show.
We're all over the map.
As they're getting set, and we're just on YouTube for this. What do we got here? JL, bad penalties, timely turnovers, same old problems. Steve B, Classic Jones, Elks, can't wait for him to be gone. I would say Classic Jones 2.0 Elks, because 14 and 15, this team was pretty good. Dale Wright, still don't understand the MBT move, upgrading a position that you didn't need to upgrade instead of upgrading an O-line where we still stink. MBT way too conservative, that does nothing with his legs. Do want to get to that, but just a few more. Jackson from the McAdoo coaching tree, and most of experience is under Jones as D-first head coach. The offense won't become explosive with him, and Jones still there. Calvin C, hoping that field goal was misattributed to slipping on the field due to rain. That could be something.
So too.
That could be something.
Because that was pitiful.
I do like Rip City Step. They can lose with Trey Ford, too, in full in quotes, someone. I won't go there. I won't go there because I can't criticize MBT for today.
You can't.
I can't criticize
you can't.
And one of the biggest things that I didn't like about, as I said in the kickoff show, having MBT and not going with Trey Ford is I would have improved the O-line. I would have still had Jake Seresna for my D-line, but the D-line was pretty good, as we talked about. The O-line was pretty good, as we talked about. So the reason you start Trey Ford with the cap situation, it didn't play out today, so I can't go after that one. Maybe if there's a critique, this is on Jarius Jackson. Why not get Trey Ford out there a little bit? Why not build some sort of package, get him out there, and mix with things? But in the end, I don't think you go do that in the fourth quarter. And through 3 quarters, the offense was playing really well. That I can't look at the Trey Ford situation right now and go, that's the reason as why the Elks stumbled today. This is, unless maybe they needed to go fix the secondary. Maybe that was the issue Chris Jones had this offseason, is that he trusted you. He didn't trust the youth at quarterback, went with the veteran, okay, but then trusted his youth in the secondary, and right now, through at least game 1, shouldn't have trusted them fully, and should have brought someone a little more veteran. You saw Ed Gainey go. You saw Aaron Grimes go. Guys who battled injury, of course, too. Lost some veteran leadership, though. Maybe you needed to bring someone else. Or maybe this is just a case of Lucius Purifoy's out and not having him, although Jackson, who played at the safety position, he was all over the place.
Played well.
He was very impactful with that one, but maybe it's getting Lucius Purifoy helps calm things down a little bit.
Well, and severely outplayed by his counterpart on the Rough Riders, Jaden Dahlke, a local Edmonton guy, former Wildcat. He was everywhere on the field today, so hats off to him. That was an incredible game by him. But yeah, can we just stop overreacting and just say this team was competitive today and could have very well won? Yes, I get it. They blew it in the fourth quarter because due to mental mistakes. But MBT had a great game. That offense played and moved the ball very well. Right? I mean, you look at a very small sample size of the game. Yeah, they can fix that. If they came out and MBT was getting harassed and rushed every time he dropped back, then that's a problem. He had a great pocket all day. He was throwing the ball on time. Would I like to see a little bit more pizzazz in the offense? Yes. I thought it was a very mundane, dink and doink, and maybe that's where that Taylor Cornelius comment came from, because that's all he could throw was 5-yard outs or, banana to the flats. But yeah, I'd like to see maybe a little bit more develop with that offense. But I don't think the sky is falling just yet. That was a good team in the Saskatchewan Roughriders that they faced. That was a strong team.
But beatable today. That's the issue.
Beatable today.
They're just completely beatable, and you could have walked away with 1-0. We got a Let's Go Oiler chant going on right now. Here's the problem, but I don't want to overreact, but right now I'm looking at this team. This was a necessary game. I'm seeing a bye week where this team is at best 1-3. And that's very concerning. Like Montreal, with what we saw them do to Winnipeg this week, that's going to be very difficult next Friday. Taking on BC in a couple weeks, that's going to be very difficult. It's that Toronto game in between. Again, I still don't know what Toronto is. They're not the Toronto of the last couple of years. I can't give them that based on all the changes and Chad Kelly being suspended for a minimum of 9 games. But this team can't afford being 1-3 going into a bye week. And this was all win now. Win now, win now.
Yeah.
And you drop this big one. And to me, I'm on Chris Jones' watch, firing watch, because 1-3 is not good enough. 0-4 is complete trash. They need to be 2-2.
Who's got to fire him? He's the GM.
It's going to be Rick Lawlisher. It's going to have to be Rick Lawlisher in that situation. But here's the one thing.
I don't think you can say that after this game.
No, I'm not saying fire him after this
He's
game.
not on the field for the mental and breakdown in the fourth quarter.
Chris Jones?
You could say, yeah.
But you're also going to sell tickets here. You also got to convince people you're winning. And you come in and say to win now. Here's where I would go, and why I'm looking at this. And I have to look at this every time there's now a loss going into that bye week. I wouldn't make a coaching change in that bye week necessarily, because the game after, I think, is Ottawa. And they have Ottawa twice and Hamilton and Saskatchewan. And I think BC are like 5 of the 5 games after the bye week. So with Ottawa twice, with Hamilton in there, and with Saskatchewan, you could get back to 500 pretty quickly if you fall to 1-3 or 0-4 going into that bye week. But the moment you now have one loss in there, you got to make a change. And that's what Christian, unless they surprise me in the next couple of weeks. There's nothing that I saw today that at least gives me confidence that this team will beat Montreal or BC.
They're crazy. Why? They had a bad quarter.
Against Saskatchewan.
You said it. They were in control of that game until the fourth quarter.
Against the Saskatchewan Roughriders team that wasn't playing as great themselves.
I'm just saying.
Trevor Harris wasn't playing exactly well. Credit to the Elks front 7 when it comes to stopping AJ Ouellette. But the Riders' defense wasn't dominant out there, and they didn't take advantage in that first half and load up points. You think Montreal's defense is at the same level as Saskatchewan? You think BC's defense same level as Saskatchewan? I don't. Those are much better defenses. And you were very close. I can't right now sit here and think that this team is going to find a way to go beat the Owls or the Lions. So I'm looking at a 1-3 team going in a bye week.
Yeah, maybe. But, hey, maybe they do surprise you. I'm saying this is a small sample size, of which was generally good. Like, I get it that you're fearful of what happened last year and how that start happened. But they did not have any games like they had today last year in those first, where they controlled the game. Like, they were in some close ones, but they controlled that game. Cloud Bethel Thompson played as good as you want your starting quarterback to play. You can't deny that.
As well as I'll give you that.
Right?
But it was against
game.
That opponent that it worked out. And that's the fear that I'm going to have with this
and I think
moving forward.
Your fear or concern is legitimate. I think it's something that going into next Friday, let's put it this way. Next Friday's game is going to tell you a lot more about this Edmonton team than today's game. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because you're going up against one of the top teams.
One of the considered to be Grey Cup favorites.
And what they did against Winnipeg puts them in that consideration. Because I didn't know if they were just hot last year, or if they were actually legit a good football team. And that defense is legit, I think. We saw it last year. They've continued. That's there. But yeah, it's going to be the litmus test on how good this Elks team is. Well, again, last year I look at this team, and maybe I'm focused too much on last year, but mentally they had that misstep in the first game. They couldn't recover. and now you have this misstep, fourth quarter collapse this week, and are you going to be able to recover from Montreal? That's what we're going to have to wait and see. Box Pounders with you in the Nasty Chat. Great show, guys. Forget the score. I will still see a lot of positives today and remain optimistic that we'll get 7 wins this season. That's what you need as well. Penner's Pancakes and Dale Wright, though, agreeing with me when it comes to the concern for this team. People are asking about Chris Jones' contract. He's in the 3rd year of a 4-year deal. No matter what, if he ever gets fired, he has to. Yeah, they only have to pay him 1 extra year. So if they fired him last year, they only would have had to pay him for this year, and then it's clear. That doesn't matter because it's on the 3rd of a 4-year deal. If you ever do make a change, you're going to have to pay him for the next year, which is this coaching cap situation is just stupid in the Canadian Football League.
Well, let's look at some positives. I mean, you and I were sitting there watching our punter Julian smoke bombs after bomb after bomb. This is something this team has not had in a long time.
He averaged Julian Grant's with Alouette,
51.3 yards. That is impressive. That's NFL numbers.
On one of those, he had this booming punt and he was getting pressure.
Yes.
And he still corner kicked the hell out of that kick.
Beautiful.
It was stunning.
He helped them gain that field position battle, which is crucial. Obviously, it's not the be-all, end-all because they'd ended up losing. And then let's talk about a couple cool bet picks we had going into this. 2-0 on the season, folks. 2-0. Check.
Jay's prop of the game was McLeod Bethel Thompson over 1.5 touchdowns.
Boom.
Check. I had Curly Gittens Jr. over 4.5 receiving yards or receptions today.
Boom.
He had 8. Check. So we nailed that. So that's
2-0. That's not a bad way to start the season, I got to say. Yeah.
Stampater, we got a text in the Paris Fuelers inbox, 780-218-9999. I really hope Trev and Belzy read it.
Yes.
Not knowing what was going on and going, why is Stampater texting this in? Why did we abandon the run game? That was a trade of Jarius Jackson's offense in the past, and it reared its ugly head again. Kevin Brown, 3 carries in the second half. We led the majority of it. Not good enough from our offensive coordinator.
I agree.
Okay, but what the one in defense of Jarius Jackson is, if it's not working, how do you keep going back to it?
You have to.
Okay, but is that why maybe the error happened where Javon Leake was in there to take the football? To try something different, and he fumbled. So I think they tried to get back to the run game, tried doing something, and it bit them in the behind because Leake fumbled it.
I would have liked them to stick with Brown and pound it down and just keep going because it doesn't necessarily matter if you're getting the yards.
We want to
come. It just keeps the defense on their toes. So that defensive line can't just pin their ears back and attack you. You mix in the run game as part of the flow for your offensive play calling. It is necessary, and I agree, Stampater. I'd like to see a more balanced attack. I mean, overall, there was 10 carries. I mean, I'm not going to count the quarterback sneak. 10 carries. I mean, you look at Saskatchewan. AJ Ouellette had 18 carries. Yeah, he only had a 2.1 yard average, but that's 18 carries. That's keeping that defense honest. And I thought coming into this game, I thought that you would see a more balanced approach with their running game. And I hope they do rectify that and find ways to get the running game going. Not only going, but used. Use it more. 10 carries in a game, it's not enough. It's pitiful.
Okay. Explain, is this just coincidence? You know football better, so I'm just going to throw this to you. Last year, they couldn't get the run game going with Taylor Cornelius. When Trey Ford went in, they got the run game going, but Ford was running around, maybe too much, but running around. Now they're back to the pocket quarterback, and they couldn't get the run game going.
Well, they only gave him the ball 10 times.
But on the
That's play calling.
Okay, I'm going to add all 7 of those.
He had a
2.7 average.
2.7 average.
So it wasn't working when they did go to give the ball. So is that like we talked earlier?
I know,
about
but it wasn't working with AJ Ouellette. They gave him the ball 18 times. That's just what a proper offense does.
But even if it's not working, you just keep going.
You have to.
But what I'm pointing is that Kevin Brown got the holes last year with a running, more mobile quarterback behind center. When it was a pocket quarterback, he couldn't get those holes. Now we're back to a pocket quarterback, and those holes aren't there. Is that just coincidence? Or could it be the style of quarterback is this O-line? Yeah, maybe McLeod Bethel Thompson's better for them for the passing, but they can't. they need a running quarterback to be a little more scrambly to be able to open those holes for Kevin Brown? Or is that just, like I said, coincidence?
No, it's not. I mean, when you have a mobile quarterback like a Trey Ford, you almost have to set somebody up or one on each side of the ball or on the line that would spy someone like Trey Ford to make sure that he doesn't get outside of the pocket. So that takes up somebody for the run game as well. So no, it's not coincidence. It's just a matter of, you're either going to win, you're going to either have a pocket passer, and yes, you're going to have those holes tighten up. But there are ways to address that. Like, I did not see any counters. I did not see any motion, false motion, or moving the O-line one way, sending the ball carrier the other way. I did not see one
creativity
misdirection.
Almost.
Yeah, like the counter auction or even a draw.
I love counters.
They did not run one draw. Right? We saw one screen pass, and that was on a 2nd and long.
Very up.
But get a little bit more creative in ways to get Brown the ball, other than just running him on dives up the middle unprotected out of shotgun. That's another thing too. This now is happening more and more and more and more, and I don't get it. You never see a quarterback under center. You're handing the ball off 4 yards deep in your own backfield. How does that allow your running? Like I have that's like a vent. That's a personal vent for me right now. But I don't know how you expect to have a sustainable run game if you're at shotgun. But that's just me.
I want to run through the stats here momentarily and just jump in the nasty chat. We got a Panthers jersey in the house.
We got a Panthers jersey.
Like,
it's a brave
bold
soul,
move. Well done.
Bold move, Cotton.
Yeah, it's I Kachuk one at that too. We got a Matt Kachuk.
Oh, he's
Florida
getting
Panther.
booed.
He's starting to get booed here at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. There it is.
You see him there?
There it is. He's right there. This crowd here giving it to him, making sure he knows he's in enemy territory. What is he doing? Well done,
Mike
Century Casino fans.
In the nasty chat says Trey Ford doesn't make those mistakes that MBT made today. Guaranteed. What mistakes? What mistakes did MBT make today other than a tip ball interception at the end of the game?
There were some underthrown balls, but I won't say Trey Ford went to have those.
That's just a crock.
I can't say that Trey Ford went to have underthrown balls. I can't say that. Like, Trey Ford, where he needs to develop most is with his passing.
Trey Ford ain't throwing for 336 yards. I'll guarantee you that.
Well, I think he had one of those last year, did he not? Did he have he may have had an over 300 yards. I'll have to take a quick look. But, like, you're right. Like, Trey Ford could throw an interception. Trey Ford could underthrow balls and miss his receivers, too. There was moments, I can't remember which receiver, it might have been Gittens Jr. got destroyed by a pass on a play. We've seen that with Trey Ford. Trey Ford has gotten his receivers hit pretty physically. I'm a Trey Ford fan. As we said in the kickoff show, I'm number one in the fan club for Trey Ford. Nothing I will say today, though, is that he would have been better than MBT in terms of the passing part. I can't say that myself with that. I just want to see if he had a 300-yard passing game last year. He did. Against Ottawa, 317 yards and a touchdown. He was 15 of 18 in that game. So he could have done that part. Dale going in. Run game is a direct reflection of the O-line. MBT throws it quick, a positive for him. So the O-line deficiencies aren't as obvious. Said that going into the kickoff show that he does have a quick release. But where I will counter and defend the O-line is there were a few times today where they stood back and had to protect him, and they did. It wasn't like when we talked about earlier on the postgame show here, that one play where you said MBT had a quick run. He stepped up too soon.
Yeah, he evacuated the pocket too early because it was there.
It was there.
It wasn't
collapsing.
Yeah.
And that's where, as much as I do want to give McLeod Bethel Thompson credit for his quick release, and I want to credit, that's why the pressure wasn't there. I think that the O-line actually, though, still protected him in the moments that he didn't release it quickly. I get a gripe now. My gripe is with the Canadian Football League because a number of years ago, they started keeping track of QB pressures. And I think a QB pressure is the best way to evaluate an O-line and D-line.
Sure.
You could go and get one good play and get a quarterback sack. But if you get no sacks in a game, but you pressure the quarterback 12, 13, 14 times, that tells me you got a good D-line. Or an O-line is struggling. And they got rid of it because the coaches felt it was too subjective.
Right.
And it was like, I don't care if the coaches don't like it. Give me those QB pressure stats so that the average fan, the average person watching, has something to go to and be like, yeah, this is why the Elks D-line is really good, or the Red Blacks O-line is trash, or whatever it might be. That's my gripe with the Canadian Football League. Let's get quarterback pressures back. With that, I do want to jump into the stats of today's game. I want to run through that. McLeod Bethel Thompson, he led the way for the Edmonton Elks, the only one passing, 33 of 42, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. What is that completion rate? 79% completion. You'll take that any day. You're hovering on 80%. That is an incredible completion percentage. Kevin Brown, 7 carries, 23 yards. Javon Leake, 3 carries for 4 yards and a fumble. Leading the way receiving-wise, it was Dylan Mitchell with 93 yards on 7 catches. Eugene Lewis, he had 85 yards on 4 catches, while Curly Skitton Jr., he ends with 9 catches on 12 targets for 62 yards. Herji Mayala, 5 catches, 40 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kevin Brown had 5 catches and 26 yards out of the backfield. Malik Flowers, 1 catch for 14. Smith, 1 for 12, and Leake, 1 for 4. Defensively, leading the way tackles-wise, it was Niles Morgans with 9 tackles. Somebody was asking if DeBlanco played today. He was on special teams. He's credited with 1 special teams tackle. They did have 2 sacks today. Broderick, who was a first-round pick from last year, and then Ken DJ. He comes in, and he had a sack, which was part of that led to a touchdown, the field position game that we were discussing earlier.
Right before the second half, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gray, Bratton, both with interceptions in this game, and the Elks had 3 knockdowns. On the other side of the ball, Trevor Harris, 22 of 31, 305 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. A.J. Ouellette, 18 carries, 40 yards, and a touchdowns. Leading the way, Baines Jr., 5 catches, 125 yards, 3 touchdowns. Stearns had 81 catches on 7 catches. Schaefer Baker, 52 yards on 4 catches. Emelis, 27 on 4 catches. Ouellette had 1 catch for 19 yards. And Johnson had 1 catch for only a single yard. Milligan Jr., 9 tackles. He led the way for the Riders. They had 2 sacks as well as 1 interception. Boris Beatty going 2 of 3 field goal-wise, but missing a big kick that would have given the Elks the lead with about 4 minutes to go in the game. Missing a field goal that would have given the Elks a 2-point advantage late in that one. But as Jay mentioned, Julian, 51.3 on those punts. And Javon Leake, when it comes to punt returns, averaging 9.7 yards per punt return, 20.4 average on kickoff return. So those are the stats of the game for today. Calvin C., did we get any DJ request songs yet? No one's coming to us looking to get a table. No one's viewing us like the boys in the oil stream.
No one's asking for a vape charger.
No, none of that's happening. Everyone's actually been really great. We got the horse bettors next to us. We're having a great time. Next week I'll be getting in on that. I won't lie.
Well, it's Friday night, right?
What does that mean?
Is this going like this all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, I'm just wondering, is like the horse racing got a lot going on Friday nights?
Well, Saturdays are the horse racing day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So yeah, let's do it. I mean, at the end of the day, I would say the sky is not falling as fast as some may think.
It's not falling, but
it's in limbo.
I could see it tip over at any moment. That's the problem.
I want to see what happens next week, Natty. I really do. I really want to see how they game plan and change. Like, it really does stink for Edmonton fans because that was a winnable game. That was one of the 2 that you could have won out of the first 4 games, and you beat yourself. You kicked your own ass in the 4th quarter, and you dropped the ball. Absolutely, completely dropped the ball. And that, if you want to blame Chris Jones for something, that's what you blame Chris Jones for, is the lack of, focus in that 4th quarter. Mental mistakes is what cost them, ultimately.
Russell in the Nasty Chat, no team knows how to frustrate me more like the Elks. Last few seasons, the Riders have played a lot of mistake-riddled football at Commonwealth and come away with a lot of wins aside. And, they lose an offensive lineman early in that first half. He punches... throws a punch, he gets kicked out, and yet the Riders find a way to win. Because, and this is where, if I have a critique on the offense through 3 quarters as well as they played, they should have put that game further out of balance.
I agree.
18 to 8 going into the fourth quarter. You put that game away a lot further. They couldn't do that. They couldn't get that done, and it makes it much difficult for the Riders to come back. But in the end, also, that fumble changes everything, because it's not that the Riders had to drive down the field to take the lead. They were put right by the end zone, right near the red zone to take the lead, and that's going to be a crusher. And that's what cost them. Like, I know it's only preseason. I hate preseason football. But what cost the Elks against the Riders in preseason, they turned the ball over too much, including Javon Leake making those have it turning the ball over. That he needs to work on his ball control. Straight up.
Yeah, and I just don't understand the disdain for McLeod Bethel Thompson in the nasty chat. I don't get it.
It's because
he did not lose that game for the Elks.
Because the reality is, you could go back to what Rip City step, which I'm assuming was joking early in the nasty chat, going, you could lose with Trey Ford. You could be 1-0 with 0-1 with Trey Ford still too.
That's the reason that Edmonton was in that game, was McLeod Bethel Thompson in his play. Yeah, he fumbled the ball late. But
the result still ends up being 0-1.
Yeah, but that's not on him when your defensive secondary is playing like a lost kite in the wind.
But I will defend those people in this regard, though, is that if I'm an Elks fan and this team is 0-1 and Trey Ford was the starting quarterback, I can sit there and say they're developing Trey Ford. I'm sitting here now with you today saying they're 0-1 with McLeod Bethel Thompson, but they're supposed to win this season. This is all about winning this season, and we're still at 0-1. That's the issue.
Yeah,
and Trey Ford is loved by the fan base. And no matter what happens this year, Trey Ford is going to be demanded to be started and played by a lot of Elks fans because, one, and you won't deny this, he is electrifying behind center. He can make some unbelievable plays that get fans out of their seat.
Sure.
And two, a good young quarterback. And look, I will also use the thing J-Mo always said, there's no other spot like a backup quarterback or a backup goalie in the two sports. Everyone always wants to see them when things aren't going well.
Of course, it's natural.
But so that's going to be part of this. But when we've seen what we've seen from Trey Ford, he gets the casual fan excited about this team.
Yeah,
and when
you
don't play him,
you're right.
When you don't play him, it's going to be an easy critique of Chris Jones.
Yeah,
and Chris Jones is going to have to live with it. The team's going to have to live with it, and to a degree, it's not McLeod Bethel Thompson's fault. To me, I keep going to hockey references today. I must have Game 1 in my veins.
I wonder why.
When Adam Larson was traded for Taylor Hall, Adam Larson was a solid defenseman for this team, but he was always going to be compared to being traded for Taylor Hall.
Yep.
And he was never going to be always treated fairly for that. Here, McLeod Bethel Thompson, there's always going to be people going, Trey Ford, though. Trey Ford. And they got to deal with that. We got to get to a turning point. We've already referenced that, though. And players of the game. You don't want to do least valuable player. You just didn't understand.
I think it's.
Well, least I wouldn't go there for least valuable.
Least valuable player of the game was the number 53 for the Rough Riders, who got kicked out of the game because he couldn't keep his temper.
That's all you had to do. Okay, turning point is easy for me. Are we going with the fumble?
Yeah.
The Javon Leake fumble.
Yeah,
when did that happen?
Javon Leake. That happened in the fourth quarter.
Well, no, I want the official. I'm going to get exactly where that happened. Where is it? Why am I missing it? Because I want to get the official stats here. Rush middle wasn't there. I guess I don't have it here as quickly as I thought.
It doesn't matter. It was at such a point where they had already just scored. Then they get the ball right back, and they put another touchdown up. Like, it was bad timing.
Hold on a second. Well, the stats are saying Kevin Brown fumbled.
No, it was Javon Leake.
Yeah, because you had my phone. That was Javon Leake.
Yes.
Okay. And that's what they said on the broadcast on Chet.
It was.
Okay. Right now, it's credit. That's why I can't find it. It's credit to Kevin Brown. So it was 21-15 at the time, and immediately the Saskatchewan Roughriders with the Elks 16 with 10:30 to go. So the swing of being up 21-8, and now it's 21-15. But then there you fumble the football. There's the turning point of this game.
Well, I might have to, remind you of what you said when we were leaving the stadium after the fourth quarter. Yeah,
that's fine.
We're walking to the car to come back here at the start of the fourth. It's 21-8.
Yeah.
And Matt says they're going to blow it. I said,
They
shut
just got
up.
the field
You
goal.
can't say that.
They didn't get the field goal yet. They got the field goal after I said that. It was 18 to 8.
Mush Matty over
18-8.
here.
And then
you can blame him.
Beatty got a field goal, so they got more points. It wasn't my fault.
Mush Matty, that's your new nickname. Matty the Mush.
They look so good through. Do you know what? As a superstitious guy, we didn't stay for the full game. But we had to come back to Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge on Fort Road. So
right here.
Maybe we could go to that. Or just, don't fumble the football. It's that simple. Who's your player of the game?
I'm going to go with MBT. I mean,
really?
I don't know how you couldn't say that he played well. Okay, 33 completions on 42 passes, 78.6%, 2 touchdowns. The 1 interception, it was late in the game. It's a tip ball, and it was somewhat irrelevant at that point. But, I thought he managed the game well. I thought he wasn't the reason that this team lost. Let's put it that way. And I thought coming into this as somebody with a lot of pressure on him, being the big free agent signing coming into this year.
$400K.
I think he answered that bell. I really do.
I'm going to go with the guy that had 3 touchdowns on 125 yards receiving. That's Sean Baines Jr. for the Riders. He's only on 5 catches, too. He only had 5 catches. He managed 125 yards and 3 touchdowns. Lieutenant Eric is thrilled because he's on his fantasy team, too. Do you know how many points? That's a lot of points for week 1. Lucas Holt is going to be pretty upset about that one. But he's going to be my player of the game. When you're going to put up 3 touchdowns receiving on 125 yards, it's hard to go against that one.
No, it's very deserving. The reason I didn't really even consider that is because 2 of them were on complete boneheaded defensive breakdowns. He got the touchdowns, yes, you're right. But it wasn't exactly like he was moving and shaking and baking to get them. It was just silly, sloppy, non-focused play by the strong side quarterback. But I do think that can be, obviously that can be adjusted. But that was a real killer.
Before we wrap things up here, we're live at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge just off Fort Road. Jay and I will be here before and after every Edmonton Elks game this season. So come join us. They got some great daily specials all week. They also have some great game day specials. And for the Edmonton Elks, at least for today, the game day special was a cheese and jalapeno smoky. They got 6 o'clock or lager in cans, game day draft. If you're coming for the Oiler game tonight, they got a pound of dry ribs, pound of wings, basket of fried chicken, all $9.97 for Connor McDavid. They're also giving away tickets to Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Finals. You have to be here to get a ballot. They will give that away on Game 3, so you'll want to come to Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. And if it's a home game for the Elks, what you do, you come down, you get a bite, take the LRT, head to the game, come back, grab another bite, or just hang out with us, and then go play some of the machines. Go to the tables, go to the machine slots, or just bet on the ponies. Lots to do here at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. So all season long, come join Jay and I here. On the station, just about to wrap up will be the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. We will have a postgame show as soon as the Oiler game comes to a conclusion. Puck drop in probably 15 minutes time or so. But you could also head down to Hudson's Bourbon Street for that, as well as Tom Gazzola will have the post-game show for you. And then tomorrow on the station, 8 o'clock, we got the VIP Golf Show with Murray McCourt, Curtis Stock. And we got Edmonton Stingers action. They are home to the Niagara team. I forgot who the Niagara is. They're taking on Niagara. 4 o'clock down at the Expo Center. So go get your tickets and head on down there. But if you can't get down to the Expo Center, tune into Edmonton Sports Talk tomorrow on iHeartRadio on TuneIn, as well as EdmontonSportsTalk.com for Stingers action. Jay, any final thoughts on this game tonight that you want to get to?
No, I don't. And to answer your question in the nasty chat, Dale, I don't know. I'd have to look at that again. From what I saw, I think that was McLeod Bethel Thompson's fault for that fumble. Late in the game, probably squeezing the ball a little bit too much, trying to make a bigger play because they needed to get points. But you can't just hang your hat on one play. He did have a great game, in my opinion. Oh, there's Wheels. Wheels in the building, everybody. No, I guess for next week, excited to see what this team can generate during this short week of practice, and excited to see what they can come out and do against a team that many think is going to be returning to the Grey Cup again this fall.
Daniel, Paris Jewelers inbox. I still think Trey Ford should have been our starter this season. He has the potential to be a good starter in the CFL if you give him a chance. That's the last text we got on the show, so felt I will read that one. Next week, it's a litmus test. We'll find out kind of a little more. Is this Elks team capable of being right closer to those top teams? Are they going to be one of those top teams? I don't think that's going to be the case this year, but at the very least, can they be at least moving forward? We'll find out. Who are the Saskatchewan Roughriders? We don't know as well because they took on the Edmonton Elks. So next week, a big challenge, especially after what we saw from the Montreal Alouettes as they took on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and dominated those Bombers this week. That's next Friday, 7 o'clock down at Commonwealth Stadium, which means the Green and Gold kickoff show live on YouTube, EdmontonSportsTalk.com. Tune in, iHeartRadio. It will be going at 6 o'clock live from Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. Jay and myself next Friday right here on EST. We got a Panthers fan still getting booed here at Century Casino. That will wrap up the Green and Gold postgame show with myself, Matt Iwanyk, and Jay Milne. The Elks fall in their opener 29-21. Thanks for tuning in exclusively on YouTube for the postgame show. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy Game 1, Oilers and Panthers. And a reminder, GCL Diesel Oil Stream postgame show. As soon as it's over, Tommy will have the recap of what the Oilers have done. Have a great night.